Let's take a closer look at the Black Series 6-inch figure of Tech from the animated series The Bad Batch.
Varykino, living the Star Wars life.
Hello there, and thanks for visiting the Varykino YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be unboxing the Black Series 6-inch figure of Tech from the animated series The Bad Batch. As you are probably aware, The Bad Batch is in its third and sadly final season, currently airing on Disney+. So to celebrate this awesome animated series, I am going through and unboxing my collection of Black Series Bad Batch figures, and today we have Tech. So we can see here, this is his season 1 appearance in his Clone Force 99 armor. It looks really cool, and I'm very keen to get him out of his packaging and lined up with the rest of Clone Force 99. So of course, sadly, Tech is not in season 3, so I don't know that we'll ever get a new sort of updated version beyond the second season mercenary gear, but this is the first season one. So we've got lots of accessories here. We've got a blaster, we've got his helmet, very distinctive, and of course this really cool armor. He is so different to a lot of the other clone armor. There's going to be a lot of details here to go through, so I cannot wait to get the figure out and check out all of the sculpting, the paint details. Lots to take a look at. So before I open it up, we'll take one last look at the packaging. So of course we have the standard modern Hasbro Black Series packaging with the large window at the front and the angled side panel. I know that Hasbro briefly experimented with the plastic-free packaging where we just had an image on the front, and now for the most recent series, starting with the Acolyte that's coming out, we're going to go back to a square-edged box with a slightly larger window. So this is one of my sort of nostalgic ones. I did really like this angled packaging. I guess I'm going to have to wait and see how I like that squared off box with the artwork on it. But yes, for the Bad Batch, we have a dark red color stripe theme for this, because obviously there are dark red elements to their armor. It works nicely, but it does read very dark in terms of packaging. We can see it says here Star Wars The Bad Batch, but that black text is very dark on that dark red, and perhaps even less visible is the character name Tech, written here in dark red against the black. You kind of have to catch that gloss in the light to really read it. It's a little bit subtle. But yeah, lovely big window there. The side art, we have Tech wearing his helmet there. He's kind of got his hand up, looking at his wrist comb there. We've got some detail there in the background, and then it fades down into that dark red. And then, I'm not even sure the camera can read it very well, we can see the name Tech here in black. Again, bit of a hard color combination to read, but yes, the character name is there at the bottom. On the back, we have that same dark red stripe. This one is 04 of the Bad Batch series. Of course, this is from the original season 1 release. We have a little bit of a blurb here about Tech, the character. Tech is the computer and weapons specialist, the most talkative of the group. His genetically enhanced brain can puzzle through technical issues at speeds even faster than some droids, which is, yes, a fun little blurb. No spoilers for the show or any events there. And then again, we have that same artwork here, just sort of cut off slightly. Lots of copyright information there. And on the bottom, on the side, we have that little bit of the window going round there, and a little bit of a window at the top there. So pretty standard for the classic era Black Series packaging from Hasbro. So now it's time to open it up, take a closer look at the figure and his accessories. So now I have Tech and his accessories out of the packaging. There's lots to go through here. It really is quite different finally getting a figure in your hands and seeing all of the details without that layers of plastic in the way. There is just a lot to go through here. Taking him out of the packing tray, I had to be a little bit careful of these two very thin antennae, which were sort of behind him. I couldn't really see them very clearly, but thankfully, the backpack does pop off very neatly, and it just sort of sits back on there with the T-shaped peg there, so that wasn't too much of a risk. I'm not sure if these are glued in, and I don't really want to try in case they snap, but they do feel very firmly attached, so that's quite a nice little detail there. While I've got that off, I'm just going to go through some of the paintwork here. It is a pretty standard sort of pale grey, very typical for the Clone Force 99 paint scheme. So we've got a pale grey, almost white, with some red striped details and very tiny details. We've got a little bit of weathering sculpted into the base here as well. So not too much going on in terms of the sides. He doesn't have like a slot to put like a big sniper rifle or anything like that, but just, yeah, some nice detail. Very nice. I like those paint stripes. They look nice and tidy. One thing particularly about the Black Series figures for Clone Force 99 is their armor's all weathered. So I do like the fact that all of the lines and the paints just have these little kind of irregularities, little paint chips, and just these little scratches. I don't even know how well some of these little sculpted details will show up on camera, but it just gives them that sort of real worn, lived-in look. And of course, it does also very well hide any potential paint flaws or scuffs as well. So it's useful in that respect. So Tech has quite unique armor for both the Clone Trooper and apart from the other Bad Batch characters as well. He has a lot less bulky armor and more fabric components exposed. We can see his legs here. He doesn't really have thigh armor, and he doesn't have abdomen armor as well, because of course he is more of the sort of the tech specialist. He is not sort of, you know, the sort of demolitions or the sniper or anything like that. He's a different role in the team. So he's got some very different components here. So one of the things that really struck me when I first got him out of the box is this belt with all of these little details here. He's got 3 little tools, which are all separate. And I'm going to take a closer look at them later because at first appearances, these look like they are removable. So I'm hoping to maybe take them out, test them in his grip, because you can see they kind of move up, and this one I think moves up a little bit. They definitely aren't glued in because they can kind of move around, but yes, some very small accessories. Glad that they have a nice way of storing them. It looks like they fit into these little circular nooks pretty well, because I really worry about losing small accessories from my figures. The other pouch is just sculpted closed. We've got a little bit of a sort of a scope here attached. This is all one piece. This one doesn't come out. That is just sculpted on there. And then we have this brown pouch with this fun sort of leather texture sculpted in there, which I really quite like. So I don't see sort of like an attachment point on the belt for his blaster, and there doesn't appear to be a pouch or anything like that to sort of put it anywhere for storage. So I think he's going to have to hold that. But yeah, some really nice pouch details, all with that subtle sort of wavy texture to make it look like leather, which I really do like. Some very cool details there. And with his arms up, we can see some of the sculpting of his black undersuit. We can see it kind of wrinkled and rippled like fabric. We've got some really nice detail on the legs as well. And we can see the fronts of the pants here. And we can see that we've got those sculpting and hinge points at the top of the thighs as well. We'll take a closer look at all the articulation later. Because he doesn't have bulky armor, I'm expecting quite a good range of motion with him. He doesn't even have really big shoulder armor here as well. And he's got that sort of classic Clone Trooper shoulder straps here. So we've got a little bit of a distance here. So I'm expecting to get a little bit of a good articulation movement with his arms there as well. So let's take a closer look at some of the other painted details. I just got very distracted with the belt there because it's so unique to Tech. So, of course, as I've mentioned with some of my other Black Series Bad Batch unboxings, the Bad Batch figures look a little bit different to my eye because the Black Series kind of has their own style. And so this isn't really an animated face. It's more of like a realistic interpretation of the animated style Bad Batch characters. So it's kind of like a mix between, say, sort of, you know, the Bad Batch as we see them on the show, and you know, some of the other Clone Trooper faces that we might get from the Black Series line. So I think it still is a pretty good likeness. I even get sort of hints of like Temuera Morrison, you know, Jango Fett Clone Trooper face in there. I think that that's kind of fun. We get that mix there. We've got his distinctive haircut, all of the clones tend to have different hairstyles. And then we've got that sculpting there, much more of a paler hair color than some of the other clone trooper characters there. And I really do want to try the helmet on at the little bit as well, because I think, you know, he's so iconic with the helmet. I think I'm going to have mine displayed with his helmet on, but I just wanted to have a look at that face. We've got some really good paint details here as well. Nice tidy eyes. I just really, you know, I always like the eyes being painted nicely there. So we've got some fun, tiny little Clone Force 99 details here. We've got this tiny little skull. I don't even know how well that's going to show up. It's a tiny little Bad Batch little symbol there, a tiny little skull. And then we've got this little sort of cog on the back of his hand armor plate there. That's really quite fun. And then of course we've got a lot of gray and red details like the rest of the Bad Batch. So it's mostly this kind of white armor. His armor is a little bit more paler than some of the other characters. So it appears white, very white or very, very pale gray. And then we've got the darker gray sections, and we've got a little bit of white detailing on the shoulders. Again, we've kind of got that weathered edging. So we can see it's not like straight edges to the paint job, which is kind of fun. And on this one, we can kind of even see some of that weathering, like the sort of deep cuts into the armor showing up there under that red paint, which is kind of fun. He doesn't have quite as much weathering as some of the other characters. But yeah, I like that we've still got a little bit of that going on there. So yeah, we've got some gray paint on his wrist armor. We've got a bit of brown here on his bicep armor. Looking pretty cool. We've got some really interesting articulation going. Gonna be checking out. We've got a lot of rippling here in the fabric sculpting around his elbow. So I'm curious to see how this is gonna look. I can see we've got a little bit of sculpting down by the elbow, which I generally like. It tends to sort of hide it. But sometimes the fabric sculpting around joints can really help hide the articulation points, or it can just look really, really wonky when you start to pose them differently. So I'm really curious to see how this one's going to look when I start posing those ones around. And we've got sort of a bit of a gun grip hand here with, you know, that finger extended to fit into a trigger. And this one is a bit more of a classic round grip that I'm going to see. These tools are pretty thin. It's going to be interesting to see how well they're going to sit in his hand, or whether they're just going to sort of fall out a little bit there. Moving down, we've got some cool leg armor here. Pretty simple knee plates with a little bit of red detail. We've got some brown pouches. Again, we've got that sort of leather-like texture there. Nothing comes out, nothing moves. There's kind of these little things inserted in the top, but it's all sculpted on. And then we've got white clone trooper boots and ankle articulation that we'll take a look at later. So one of the things that I spot, I'm just going to move his leg just to show, we've got a little bit of a paint run over here, where the black of his pants has come down onto the red of his boots, which wouldn't make sense because this is fabric. It's not going to carry color over to his boots, but that's on the inside of the leg. It's not too bad, and generally speaking, the weathered overall effect kind of hides a little bit of that paint floor, because we can see that kind of weathered edges to the red, so it's not an even stripe there. Overall, pretty cool. So let's take a closer look at some of his articulation. We're going to get, okay, let's see. So there is a little bit of a hitting point where his shoulder bell is kind of going under, but I can get his arm pretty well all the way up. This one I feel like this one actually might impact a little bit. Oh, it's giving me quite a lot of creaking there. Yes, okay, this one is hitting a little bit in there, and I don't really want to scratch it up too much. But yes, that one's a little bit tighter. I think it's just a little bit of variance with the shape, because the shoulder pieces look the same, but you can kind of see That one there is kind of bent if I put it all the way up. If I put that back down, it's kind of, you can see it's supposed to be straight. So these ones are just a little bit rubbery so that you can move them in there, but I'm not going to pose them with their arms all the way up like that, and I really don't like doing any kind of permanent creasing, particularly to armor components that are supposed to be rigid. So interesting that those actually have a little bit more of a rubber flex to them there. And his chest plate is separate. I can actually move that. I didn't actually notice that at the start. You can kind of see over his shoulder, I can actually move that. That's not sculpted on his chest. It's actually a full separate piece. So that's kind of interesting. I can get in and move that around. Interesting. So we've got that sort of upper torso articulation. It's kind of hidden up under there. Oh, it's a bit clicky. Yeah, it's very clicky. I haven't come across that so much. Usually they just kind of find their natural stopping point, and pretty nice movement with the head there. So we can get some good posing. We know he does a lot of, a little bit more reading than shooting and stuff like that with his like comp pads and stuff like that. So we can get a little bit of a downward look there. Nice and fluid. So it's going to be interesting to see how well these affect his hip movements. But yes, we'll check out the elbows because I want to see that sculpting. Nice fluid movement there. We've got, very easy movement on the shoulders in this direction, which is nice. And the fabric actually looks pretty good with his elbow all the way up. Of course, we get a little bit of that hinge on the underside, but the fabric there in the back does a pretty good job of blending all together. So we can get his hands up pretty well. Let's take a closer look at this elbow. Nice movement there. Yeah, and the wrinkles of the fabric all kind of work together nicely there. I like that. And pretty smooth movement on this side as well. Let's put his arm in there a little bit. And we've got a little bit of backwards and forwards there with his wrist. A little bit stiff, and then of course just standard rotation there, and same on this side, very easy movement. His hand on this side is more of a side to side movement, but it's very limited. I can kind of get it to about there, and I don't know, doesn't really want to go very far in the other direction, but that's okay. And then we've got that movement that way. So very interesting to see how well we're going to hold some of these tools when we get to that part. So pretty nice with the hips. That pouch just moves out of the way. Particularly when we have these thin little straps, I don't like doing anything that's going to particularly stress a smaller section. So I like that they seem to kind of move out of the way. And the side, you can get to about there in terms of the seated position. So not completely straight, but these tools still flex there. Just going to straighten him up. There we go. Okay, so we can twist at that upper thigh, but that leather plate is going to be quite visible and look a little bit misplaced if we rotate it around like that. But we can at least get a little bit of, posability there. I do think it looks better in its default position. So his knee joins are pretty well hidden by the armor plates here. Let's see what they look like. So yeah, we got a little bit more of the join visible now. But overall, particularly with the black undersuits, I think that really does help hide that. Very clicky. There we go. We can go all the way back. Nice there. And some pretty good ankles. Some ankles are just really tight. These ones aren't too bad. I'm hoping he's going to stand up nicely when we get all his accessories on him and everything. So now I want to see these tools. I'm not sure if I'm going to take all of them out. I'm just going to try and see if I can get this one out. Okay, so we've got this tiny little tool here. These ones aren't painted. They're just sort of like a light gray. This one is, see if he's going to stand up there, a light gray with the end handle is painted black. But I get the feeling these are so thin, they're just going to very, very lightly sit in his hand. But that is fun that we've got some extra accessories there. If you have a sort of hand in a pose, that's really cool. Nice. So yeah, this one's particularly got a bigger sort of head to the tool, so it's gonna just kind of find that natural resting point there. Very cool. And let's see how well he's going to hold his blaster. This is always a tricky part. He looks like he's got a pretty good open hand actually. So there. Yep, his finger goes into the trigger nicely. That wasn't too much of a mission to get that in there. There we go. Now he is holding a tool and a blaster pistol. Very nice. Okay, so the last accessory we've got is his iconic helmet, which is kind of sad when you think about some of the most recent season 3 episodes. I won't go into spoilers, but yes, there is a lot of detail going on here with his helmet. We don't have like clear lenses or anything like that. This is like, I want to say it's a gold because it's quite reflective. So that's kind of an interesting choice, using like a gold paint here for the lenses. So they're not really lenses, just painted circles really. And then we've got a lot of gray detail, and we've got these cute little sort of pixelated style skulls on the earpieces here. We've got one on this side and one on this side. Such fine detail. And then we've got a little bit of a red stripe across the top. And one of the things that I noticed when I was getting this one out of the packaging is that this visor moves, which is just fantastic. And again, we have that gold paint here, so it kind of looks like a lens. And then when we put that down, the skulls are up the right way in terms of the painting there. We can get a better look at this kind of fun weathered red stripe with gray panels there. And we've got his sort of little antennary pieces here as well that are kind of flexible. So I am going to be very careful with those because I don't want to snap those off. So yeah, very cool helmet, and it's very squishy. So I'm hoping that means it's going to go on his head very easily. And I also, I feel less worried about the sort of slightly more rubbery helmets not scratching the faces when I put them on, because I really do want to have this one on tech for display. So let's go see how well this is going to go on him. Okay, I think that is on. It always takes a little bit of a, he's actually got quite a lot of flex in his neck joint. So I'm having a little bit of trouble covering his chin up completely. So I will do a little bit of adjustment later. But there, I think that is a very classic tech look now with those lenses there and his helmet fully on. That looks really cool. Okay, so now I've got to put his backpack back on. And we'll see if we can get some cool poses. Well, we'll just see how well he's going to stand up now that he's got his backpack on. So we can get that there, get his head up a little bit. Here we go. That's really cool. There is so much going on with this figure. It's such a unique sculpt. I love the fact that, you know, Clone Force 99 is so unique. They've all got different armor, different accessories. I love the helmet. I think it looks really good. It's very, very iconic tech there. And I like the fact that we've got that different motion there, so we can have his visor down as well. It looks really cool. He's got his backpack fully on, and he's got his blaster pistol and some tools there. I think this one is the coolest. These ones will come out as well, but I have the feeling I'm going to lose these if I get them out because they're so tiny. But very, very cool. I think it's fun to have something else for him to hold there as well. So there we go. Finally have Season 1 Tech Black Series figure from the Bad Batch out of his box, so I can add him to my growing Bad Batch display. I think this is really cool. I do wish that Hasbro had given us a full TVC Bad Batch collection by now. Maybe someday we'll get them all in the 3.75-inch action figure scale, but for now I'm working my way through unboxing all of my 6-inch Black Series figures, and I think the detail just looks absolutely amazing. I love the weathering, I like all of the details. I mean, I know a large component of that is their costumes from the show, but it just really looks cool in action figure form. There's so much going on here, and I really like all his details. That iconic helmet just looks so cool. Here we go. Really cool. That's classic tech. Very nice. I'm so happy with this one. Always a little bit nervous when I see all these little accessories and things, and just a lot of articulation. There's a lot to go through here. So I know this was a slightly longer video. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. There was just so much to go through, and I do like to explore all of the articulation, the painting, the sculpting details, and just sort of really appreciate all of the detail work that goes into Black Series figures, because to be honest, this is about as close to playing with my Star Wars toys as I generally get. Once they're open, I'm going to put them on a display shelf and admire them. I don't do too much in the way of complicated poses. Just generally like them nice and sturdy on my display shelf, so I'm not going to lose small accessories or accidentally have one lose themselves off my shelf there. So very cool. He does actually feel very sturdy actually now as well, which I really do like. I think Black Series look a little cooler without stands, so I do like them when they're sturdy and they're not going to be jostled. Very, very cool. Really, really happy with this figure. It's really cool. Of course, I do miss Tech in the 3rd season. It would be fun to see how he would be helping the Bad Batch with the current events. But nevertheless, very excited by this figure. Very happy to have him in my collection. Thank you so much for watching my unboxing and review of the Black Series 6-inch figure of Tech from Season 1 of the Bad Batch. I really like this show. I am so happy I've got a growing number of collectibles to carry me on when the show is finished. Thank you so much for watching. I'll have more Black Series unboxings of Bad Batch figures linked down below so you can see some of the other ones. I'll catch you in the next video, and as always, may the Force be with you.
If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like, check out our other videos, and subscribe for alerts about new uploads. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.